to share a bit of their own story or experiences or anything they'd like to say. So I'm going to introduce Bart. So this morning we heard from Matt, the manager at Recovery House, and now Bart's going to share a bit of his experiences. So, over to you, mate.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, my name's Bart, and I'm an addict.
Hello, Bart.
Sitting there waiting to go last and get this weird sweaty thing, and I'm thinking, oh my god, you know. But like listening to the guys that have shared before me, you know, that's the amazing thing about recovery in such a short space of time. Recovery is, you know, it holds a certain ethos where I only have to sit in a room and listen to other people share their experience. No matter how anxious I'm feeling, my anxiety will begin to alleviate and I feel calm because ultimately I feel satisfied, I feel understood. Something I never I'll be understood. That's something that I never have. Because it's not much different to, you know, life experiences that I've heard shared. Yeah, my life's different today. It was only 6 years ago. I just want to touch on, I was sitting downstairs and waiting for a second path to be able to come and talk. Didn't realise it though, and the lads came down to get some chairs, and they said, probably did they thought it was a pain or something, so I just sat there and I was having a quiet moment because Matt, the manager of the Recovery House now, and said that I still go back and do things, remember he still asked me to come along, and it's also good to share a bit of experience and always get this overwhelming sense of when I'm doing this justice. All my friends knows, you know, of how much gratitude I have for the place. I feel I have in my life today would definitely not even be a thing, not even sure to be alive if it wasn't for that place. And he said, yeah, I'd like you to come along, and I think it'd be a real good example of the same. I've sort of said it, and like ultimately, before I went to Recovery House, you know, I was like a good example of felt part of a team like some people like. About probably an example of some things, but definitely not everything positive, and definitely not anything. I've never had that like for the first time in my life. I just thought I was having it in a moment downstairs. I thought, what a beautiful thing, that's what it feels like. I think that is where, you know, kind of where we can sort of like help each other out, you know, the treatments I do, so sort of like next week we celebrate that, and then I get to sort of sit there down and dump to our radiates that out, and sort of talk about the positive action that place to their supporters, you know, so I just wanted to touch on that, run over a little bit, I'm quite grateful. Yeah. Using wasn't good. Yeah, I'll just finish on this, you know, like, my life wasn't good in the end. Felt so wasn't even good in the beginning. I don't know, I really died at 16 and like, it wasn't even things I learned a lot, so then, and just every year, very transport-esque my life. And that sort of continued for 25 years, almost, before I walked into a Recovery House treatment centre, not had a New Year's either. And it's funny really because while I was waiting again to either die or take this opportunity the 12-step fellowship group has, I was brought to Jericho House for reassessment. I'm really I'm grateful. I think my friends are just trying to give me some options. My life was very different today, and paying cash in hand works. He said, no chance you're getting arrested before you get a chance to go to rehab. And was trying to help, and I was receiving all this support. And you know, the build up to the end of that, you know, only lit as a story of the stuff that you hear in recovery rooms of it was bleak. You know, I was talking to someone in the break, and I generally did not.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you very much. Big shout out.
The substances aside, living in a cycle of that, not knowing how to live, not knowing how to.
You know, it's not easy
to do something that positively affected myself or others. Living within that cycle for 25 years really beats you down.
Not just share, but share some
really beats you down into.
It takes a lot of courage. Thank you very much. We'll open it up a bit. If anybody wants, we're going to have about half an hour. So if anybody wants to just kind of share a bit, either on anything they've heard, their own experiences.
I'm not brave enough to even attempt to try and think like that or take my own life. I'm not sure, but I definitely didn't want to live anymore. And I heard someone talk about it this morning. You know, I sort of resigned to the fact that, you know, that's just how life is, and a solicitor's destined to be a solicitor. You know, the milkman's destined to be a milkman, and I'm just destined to be a smackhead. You know, it's the only sense that I could apply to my life to bring me some form of comfort that, you know, or understanding. Because that was the most painful thing for me, and you know, there was some painful stuff in my life, you know, physical pain, physical mental torture to myself, and the consequences. And I share on this when I talk about this, you know, because despite the hepatitis, despite the hitting up other people's syringes full of blood, just because I know there's some gear in it and I'm clucking, just because, you know, despite the ulcers and the leg ulcers and the in and out of hospital and the physical pain and the, you know, the running away from police and dogs dragging me out from under cars, you know, because I've been out robbing and different things. I think the most painful thing through all of my using was watching my family and my loved ones on their knees crying and begging, saying, Bart, why can't you stop? And I didn't know. So a life of where everything just seemed like it turned to black ash, anything that I touched, keep repeatedly doing this thing that I did not know how to stop doing, but I didn't want to do it anymore. Needless to say, I was a shell of a person in the end, and I'm really grateful for how recovery in certain ways, you know, if it's loud and it's proud and it's in a fellowship and it's welcoming, that message gets carried, because that's how it worked for me. I'd just come back from working at sea. That's a book on its own, 12 months at sea, to try and get clean. Just got worse in the middle of the sea. Yeah, go figure. But it did, trust me. You know, I managed to come back to the area that I'm from, which is Northamptonshire, and a guy that I'd used with my whole life, you know, at points. I'd been through recovery house treatments, and I was aware that he'd been through once before, and unfortunately he'd had a relapse because we used on his relapse together. And he started talking about meetings and different things, and I'd never really heard of this stuff because I'd spent my life in and out of drug services, but then I was the type of addict that didn't even bother going and picking up a script because it was too much of to me it was too much of a hindrance for me to even bother. So I'd just be like, nah, I'll crack on myself, and I'll just go and rob this and rob that, or work for the Travellers, or whatever I was doing to try and maintain my using, because it just seemed like too much of an effort. And luckily, you know, that person wrapped themselves around me, and for the first time in my life, even though I didn't know how to stop doing what I was doing, even though I didn't want to live anymore, because I saw someone that I could identify with, that was from a place like me, that used like me, that spoke like me, you know, it made me think, maybe I can do this. If he can do it, maybe I can do this, you know. And so obviously I went for an assessment at Recovery House. That same person, he's my sponsor today, drove me up the M1 to Derby, and I remember saying to Matt this morning, it's a bit vague, like I can remember I went in there, I spoke to some Scottish guy, and like it's all a bit, you know, and whatever came first, I was prepared to have a go at, and I'd had treatment spells in the past in very different environments. Mobile phone allowed, mixed men and women allowed, different things, you know, Broadreach House in Plymouth, and lots of different places. I can say that sort of place is closed down now. But I was an addict and I manipulated and I managed to get money, and before I knew it, I was having gear thrown over the wall and like, you know, all this stuff, and I'm running around rehab thinking I'm clever because I've got a pot of tea water taped to the inside of my leg for when they spring a urine screen on me. And I managed to get away with about 4 or 5, if I'm honest. I have no idea how, but in the end that fell through, but I've sort of diverted off. I went into Recovery House. It was the bed that came first, you know, and similar to what I've just heard, do you know, like, I think only through being able to do some work on myself in that place and continuing to do that in a 12-step fellowship and look at some stuff. I'm not saying this is why I'm an addict and what I use, but I've got to understand that actually, even though I had an okay upbringing, I suffered from some stuff, you know, and my first addiction was attention. And I came from a house where my dad was not there. I came from a house where the parent was there, alienated the parent that wasn't there. And all of these things really affected me, which played into how I acted as an adult. And I'm sure Matt can agree that I sort of went in there and I wanted to be perfect. I got shown the warning sheet, like as I was signing all my stuff, it's like, yep, not going to get one of them, you know, like, and I felt, because I still thought through this low self-worth inside, and you know, feeling like I needed to put on this facade that I need you to love me, like me, and think that I'm perfect, which didn't serve me well for a bit. I think I cheated myself until it was sort of. Say beating out to me. Nobody beat me in rehab, but like, you know, challenged in the right ways to then sort of be okay with falling short, acting out, being a bit of a plonker, you know, because that's what I could be, to then be pulled up on that stuff and corrected and shown a different way to act, you know, by falling short. Recovery House then could apply some principles and some stuff for me to try and correct how I acted as an adult, as a boy in an adult's body. And again, had a wonderful experience most of the time in there. You know, I really like to, it's ironic really, I work in a company that's one of the biggest drug and alcohol service providers in Europe, CGL. And I've been doing my job for 2 years, and it's very much harm minimisation. It's very much keeping people alive, hopefully, for them to find recovery one day. And so I don't know where I was going with that then, I sort of lost where I was just at. But having that fellowship, you know, feeling part of a tribe, learning to trust, learning to be honest, and just to keep trying to apply action against fear. You know, most of my life I ran from pain and fearful things to seek pleasure. I'd chase things, you know, and I was taught all these things. I had no insight about any of this stuff until I went to Recovery House. I had no insight around how to respond you know, with emotional intelligence. My finances weren't great, but once you get to learn to live on 25 quid a week for a little while, and actually, do you know, like, be told to prioritise things, and you know, got the ball rolling in me learning to grow up. And I graduated. I was lucky enough to go back and volunteer, and then take up an MVQ level 3 and sort of apply myself. I was down dog shit alley sniffing glue at school. I wasn't doing GCSEs. I wasn't studying. Do you know, like, for once in my life, I sort of like had this thing that I could try and apply myself to, and I genuinely started to have a little bit of hope that I could build something good of my life, because starting over at 40, you know, and coming to recovery, it was really scary. I thought, like, I've wasted it, it's too late, like, my time's up, what am I going to do? And that treatment centre, every step of the way, sort of encouraged me, gave me support, gave me advice. I still go around there now, you know, like, do you know, I don't drive to Mum's house. I drive to Recovery House, you know, and I go to the office, or I just talk to the lads that are in there now. And as a result of doing that stuff, you know, some years ago now, my life looks really different today. As I just touched on there, I've worked in different areas of drug and alcohol support, mental health support, and like I say, I'm working as a recovery worker now. And I like to think that I was talking to Matt about this at lunchtime. Like I want to sort of feel I want to say this, but I don't want it to come across in an egotistical way. But I've only been doing that job for 2 years, and in the first year of my job, and I feel this is a massive attribute to what I was taught in that house. I was the highest performing recovery worker in the entire county, and I'd only been in the job a year, and I think, and that's not, oh, well done, Bart, you're great. I think that is testament to being someone with lived experience, with the values and the principles that I was shown in Recovery House, the connection, the honest communication, and then trying to bring that into my working style with people on the front line, which are chaotic, as we all know. We used to be those people that, you know, lived that life, has really helped me become the person and the support worker that I am today. I've also, you know, recovery's put me into a place of I spent a lot of time on jail wings and in homeless shelters and different stuff. And